Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hire Moment Mastermind. I'm Sheila Lotzar, happy to host our little illustrious meeting today. For those of you who don't know, Vern is on vacation for the month of August. He'll be back in September, so it's just us. And we are happy to welcome back Deborah Shelby, who used to be with us a long time ago and just had a layoff experience, which, never fun, but we are happy to help her. And glad to see our regulars, Karen, Ty, and Michael. So who would like to kick us off with a question?
I guess it's not so much a question, but I talk with other people who are, looking for jobs, and we commiserate in our frustration or learning experiences. And one of the themes that keep coming up is, which is not unusual, which you apply and you get, and maybe you get an interview, or maybe you don't hear from them at all, right? I understand if they're so busy that they can't, and they say only the ones who are selected, you'll be notified of the whatever. But many of these organizations also use the applicant tracking systems. And I had and so we're saying, why can't, well, anyway, the scenario was just yesterday. I was in the midst of applying where I created an account, but I hadn't yet uploaded resume, because I was still thinking about it, but it was on the same day. And what happened was that the next day I got a notification that said, "Thank you for applying. The position has been filled." So what they basically did was took everyone who had a created an account, was in the process of applying or have applied through that system, and just as a courtesy, let everyone know that the position is now filled, which I appreciated, because then you can cross it off the list as opposed to have it hanging in there forever. And I just thought, Shira, as you talk to employers, if they're using some type of a system like that, just as a courtesy.
So can I give a little speech on this? Is that okay?
Yes.
I have what to say. All right. So, and Deborah, you're welcome. Deborah is actually in the recruiting world too. She's an executive assistant in the search world, executive search. Well, anyway, so for the record, let me just sort of explain the what's what here. Okay. What you're referring to in recruiter terms is called managing the candidate experience. There's actually a concept here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever go to talk to a bunch of recruiters, like there's actually a conference for recruiters here in the DC area called Recruit DC. They will talk about such things. So let me explain to you kind of how this works and doesn't work. All right. First of all, the only organizations, and I'm going to put search firms aside for a second, it's a whole different kettle of fish. Okay. But in terms of when an employer goes directly to a candidate, right, puts the word out, the only companies that will use an ATS, an applicant tracking system, are ones that are large enough to have a volume of ongoing searches. I usually say, well, maybe over 200 employees, something like that. Hey, Carolyn, good to see you.
Hello.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. We're talking about the candidate, what we're calling the candidate experience when your resume goes, you apply and then you don't hear anything. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, like a courtesy reply or whatever. So I'm explaining the kind of the world of that world. So if the employer is over, let's say 200 employees, I'm making that number up, they may have an applicant tracking system. Usually. Number two, they may or may not have set that applicant tracking system to do that automated response. Okay. And that's just kind of a function of how they set that up. But more often than not, the ATS does do that, and they will just sort of do that quick reply. But here's the thing, and especially with kind of searches that you're doing, which are not usually with those kinds of large organizations, if they do not have an applicant tracking system, they do not typically have an automated way of responding. So that's just a technical thing, because when an employer is getting tons of responses, whether that's through a LinkedIn post, Indeed post, or whether it's just, they've just put the word out there, they're just getting it directly, they do not have the time to sit there and physically respond to every single candidate. Okay. It's just a matter of timing, right? Even though that would be lovely. And so they kind of abide by the don't call us, we'll call you kind of thing. It can be frustrating for sure. I'm not saying it's a happy thing, but it's really just a matter of, right, what is actually, viable. Search firms, So search firms, yeah, they may also post a position, in which case, if they post it on a job board, right, same concept applies. You're typically not going to hear back from the LinkedIn post, the Indeed post, whoever puts that out there with a quick, kind of response. That said, some people, some recruiters, if they structure it into their process, right, will actually go through. So for example, in LinkedIn, you don't know this, but I'm share with you in the back end. When an employer posts on LinkedIn, and they see the response, right, the employer has 3 possible options to check on the back end. You're not going to see this. It's either, it says good fit, I think maybe, and then rejected, something like that, or not a fit. And so when we hit the not a fit button, it can actually LinkedIn will auto-generate a rejection note, which we can tailor, right, if we want to. And so that's if the employer goes in there, or the recruiter goes in there and just one by one, check, okay? But every recruiter is different. Every recruiter has a different volume of searches on their desk. Some recruiters are not recruiters. They're HR people. They're HR generalists. They've got payroll and benefits and employer relations and everything else on their desk, and they literally don't have the time to handle this. So I'm only sharing this with you, not as an excuse, but as an explanation, that there's just so much going on and so much variability in the market around the recruiting process.
Yeah.
That to me, it's like, if you get a response, that's abnormal. Right?
Yeah.
It would be lovely, but it's just kind of not really realistic.
Right. I mean, I totally understand if they don't use an applicant tracking system. No, I fully expect I'm not going to hear unless they've selected me to move forward in some process. Fine. But if they're using an applicant tracking system, it's just an easy process. And so this one employer, the one that did send a blanket like, hey, we fill the position, was like, thank you, as opposed to, do I follow up, 3 weeks later?
So,
I mean,
here's what I recommend for everybody. And I used to say this phrase all the time. Deborah, you probably remember this: pack your patience, right? When you're in your job search, pack your patience. I would not assume the level of customer service, if you will, that you would expect with other kinds of engagements in your life, right? So if you get a response, it's great. If you don't, as far as I'm concerned, it's one egg in your basket.
Yeah.
Don't look at it again. Don't think about it again. If they respond, they respond. I know it's not the best advice, right? But I think that's just realistic, so that you can just take it out of your brain, right? Just put it on your little spreadsheet, so it's there, but then I would just move on. Yeah. Ty? Oh, and by the way, Deborah, did you want to share anything else from your perspective?
I think the one thing I would add, having had this as part of my job responsibility, sometimes thinking of for the recruiter or the recruiter's, project manager, I'm like, I need to get this e-blast out, and I'm thinking about my whole list, my whole to-do. So I think sometimes, it's weighing on our mind. I need to cut this person, I need to get it done. But I kind of think sometimes it's the reality of we're balancing our whole workload. And I kind of put this into perspective one time when I was in job search. I went to this workshop about how to win the job fair, and they said, you come home from the job fair and you're like, I had this conversation and this person's going to call me tomorrow. They're so excited. And they're like, reality, the recruiter was out for the office today and they went back and they have all this stuff to do. So I think it's I say that's one of those things, it's one of those things sometimes it's oh, we need to do this. But I'm I think you said, Sherry, you're balancing everything else, especially in a smaller company. They may not have it set up.
Yeah. Right. And they might have 30 open requisitions, jobs on their desk, right? All of that stuff. And it's because technology, see, back in the day, we didn't have this situation, right? We're all old enough to remember the days of look the envelope, right? Right. Fax the resume. And back in those days, people had to be super thoughtful if they were going to apply to a job. I mean, literally you had to put your resume on cardstock paper. Remember all this? Okay. Okay. So recruiters received a much smaller volume and they could actually handle it better. And even then, nobody expected you, right, to physically respond, because even email wasn't a thing back then. But now with technology, we all have expectations, all of us right? Of hey, I submit, I expect a response. And the technology sometimes isn't set up for it, the workload. So, and you're bringing up a very valid point, and it's something that literally recruiters talk about. That's why it's actually called managing the candidate experience. And recruiters, when they're thoughtful about it, will actually try to do best practice, because they realize that they're candidates like you who are literally saying, I didn't hear back.
Mhm.
My customer experience wasn't great. I don't want to work with that company anyway, right? Like there's all these different stages in the process that the recruiter should be paying attention to, from we received your application all the way through, how do we schedule you? How do we manage your, no, right? Like all of that. There, it literally is a concept for recruiters, for those of them who actually know to think about that. And so you're bringing up a great point. Like, we're recording this call, and if a recruiter ever watches this, I hope that they will, take all this into consideration, because the candidate experience is important. So I really just thank you for bringing it up. It is important. Okay, Ty?
Based on my experience, I would never assume that the position's filled when I get that letter from the ATS, because I may have shared this before. I was on a networking call and I told people in there the position was filled, and she said, "No, it isn't. Send me your resume." As a result, I went through 2 interviews. I didn't get the job, but it wasn't filled. So the ATS system or HR just kicked me out and said, "Well, you're not qualified." So, and you got to think about also is they may go through candidates and they may not get the right person. They may call you. So I always assume positions open. But at that being said, I wouldn't just like put myself, in a position where I just waiting for that position to open up. I would just move on with other opportunities.
Yeah. Good point. Carolyn?
So I was interested in hearing the LinkedIn back office side about how you click, maybe good candidate, whatever. I don't typically apply from LinkedIn. I usually go to the company's website, career site, and apply directly from the career site.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that it's better and easier for the recruiter if I do it on LinkedIn, if they actually post it on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So first of all, you can do both.
You can apply on both
Absolutely.
platforms?
Absolutely. Sure.
Blow my mind. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. If they see it in the app, the ATS, they see it in LinkedIn, they know it's the same person. It's fine. It just means you took the extra step. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I would recommend, because you just don't know what the recruiter's back end process is, how often they check one, how often they check the other. I've had it happen where somebody will apply on LinkedIn and then they send me a private note. Right? It's fine. It's just fine. I mean, yeah, it may be a little double entry, like, wait, didn't I see this person's name before? But that's okay. I mean, I would just do it, because you just never know which they're checking when. But yeah, the LinkedIn, it's just the LinkedIn has its own sort of filtering process, right? I don't know how what the experience is like for the employer on their career portal, on their ATS. Like, it's just different, but I absolutely would recommend both. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was thinking that somehow the in-house system was superior to LinkedIn, but
the in-house system will capture you in their permanent database, right? So that if they ever are doing a search for another job, the recruiter can actually go in there and go, "Hey, let me find people with this skill set." So that's good just to do. But in addition, you're certainly welcome to do the LinkedIn.
Okay. I will. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And I am back because my position was eliminated in July.
Gotcha.
I had a good 2-year run, and they did a reorg and I was out the door.
Yeah, actually, Deborah and Carolyn, do you remember each other? Because I think you were on each
Of course we do.
So
Yeah.
Deborah's back today too, and Carol, this is very interesting timing, because you both had a similar time frame that you just both, had a layoff. So, well, good to see your faces. Wish it were for different reasons, but we're happy to see you. Okay. Yeah, Deborah.
Yeah. Can I go to a new topic?
Sure.
So one of the things that's new on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is when you have your experience, now there's that option in each position to list your skills and add skills underneath it. That's something that's new to me on LinkedIn. Would just love to hear kind of your thoughts on that and how we can best utilize that in our profile, or even does it matter?
Yeah, so it doesn't, right? Here's the it could, maybe, rather than it does. So LinkedIn, just to back up a second, LinkedIn operates in their algorithm. They are very keyword focused. What do I mean by that? So this is not on your side. This is on the employer side, or on anybody who's trying to search for you. The upper left-hand corner of any LinkedIn page has a search bar, right? And when somebody's searching for people, whether they pop in the name of a person, the companies, whether they pop in keywords like word, marketing or, PMP for project man, whatever they're looking for, right? They can use that search bar to pop in keywords. So LinkedIn, aggregates all of that and delivers the results of that search based upon those keywords. Well, the LinkedIn the algorithm kind of goes down the page from top to bottom. Now, I know to a point, I don't know all the specifics, but I will tell you is that the first thing they're looking at is your headline underneath your picture. So for example, if I were doing a search for, a digital marketing manager, okay, and I popped in the word digital marketing into the search bar, people whose headlines have digital marketing in there would come up first. Not the people who have digital marketing in their about section or somewhere else, but in the headline. So if you are in a profession and or in a sector where that's really your brand and you really believe people are going to be looking for you based on those keywords, then the headline is the place to put it first. Make sure that it's there, okay? So now I'm backdooring into your question, Deborah. So with the skills, right? So it used to be that there was a skills section at the bottom of your profile, kind of above your recommendations area. And it was like, hey, what are the skills that you have, right? Oh, project management, digital marketing, whatever. And you could have up to 50 of those skills. Now, it used to be that folks like me who would train people on LinkedIn, when that first came out a number of years ago, we would be like, oh, pshaw, like we recruiters don't even look at that stuff, like don't even bother with it. I'm changing my tune a little bit, and then I'll get to your specific question, Deborah, is that turns out LinkedIn's algorithm actually does look at those skills. Now, I don't know how they rank them, but they do look at them. So if I'm doing a search for again, digital marketing person, and somebody not only has it in their headline, but also has it in their skills, or maybe they don't have it in their headline, but they do have it in their skills, then it'll come up. It's more likely to come up in the search. Now, what they've recently done, to Deborah's question, is they've now given you an additional opportunity, not only to just have general skills at the bottom, but specific skills in specific jobs. So here's the thing. Here's basically the long answer to your short question. Yes, you can. Should you? Sure, why not? Right? To put in some of those skills if there are certain key skills that you feel a recruiter is going to be looking for. Nothing wrong with that, and probably a good thing to do, because again, with the algorithm, right? Let's say you say it in this job, you say digital marketing in this job, you say it in this job, you say it in this job, presuming that's true for those jobs, then likely than not, you have a higher chance of being found. But I wouldn't do random things. In fact, I would not do soft skills. If there are any soft skills that are like, I don't know, collaboration or teamwork, recruiters never look for soft skills when they're doing a search, ever. They're only looking for hard skills, and more specifically, very sort of high level. So like skills that you'd find in a title, like digital marketing, accounting, things like that, project management, like what certifications, like if I'm looking for, which I don't do searches for project managers, but let's say I did, I would probably in the search bar, I just wouldn't put project manager, I put PMP, presuming that my client wants that, because anybody that has PMP is or has been a project manager. Like that's just you don't get that unless you are one, right? So I say that because, knowing the main skills that they're looking for, but again, so let's just take project management for a second. If you are a project manager, I would make sure that project management is all throughout your profile. But if you just have project management as just one of your general skills, like in fact, I think a lot of you on this call might say, yeah, I've got project management skills, but you're not a project manager. I wouldn't make a big deal about putting project management as one of your skills, because you're not asking somebody to find you based upon those skills. Does that make sense? You're asking people to find you based upon the actual key. So for example, for N, business development, that's a key skill for you. Michael, certification or education, right? Ty, customer service. So that, do you see what I mean? Like the key skills that are part of your brand, those are the skills that I would encourage you to pop in. But the ones that are just sort of like, it's what I call I don't know if you guys know about this phrase that I have, ing versus So ing is the skill, is the profession. So writing versus writer, event planning, event planner, project management, project manager. Okay. So a lot of us have ing skills. We can write, we can do project management, we can do event planning, but we're not necessarily a writer, event planner, project manager. If you are an in that thing, then absolutely make sure that those are highlighted in your headline, in your skill section, that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? Ben?
Related to LinkedIn, this is a new one that I saw where you can make your profile to be open. Well, for me, it was new, so it might have been there for a while, but you can make your profile to be open to recruiters. So it's not like a public open to
Yep.
everyone, but
Yep.
and then there was a section where you can also add in titles, your desired titles.
Mhm.
And so, I put like VP of, strategic partnership or something. But then there's some titles that I put in. I try to put in like VP of something or senior director of something. And it's almost like it's a title that LinkedIn doesn't, it's
Right,
not
recognized.
usable. Yeah,
Right.
so you can't say done and
Right.
So then
Yeah.
you just have to anyway. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, LinkedIn does their bless their hearts. They keep trying, right? They keep evolving this thing, which is nice that they do that. But look, they only know what they know. They only
Yeah.
know the titles that they know. They only know the sectors that they know, even regionally. For those of us, I think all of us are in the DC area. Back in a day, our geography used to say Washington DC Metro, and then several years ago, somebody in Seattle, in LinkedIn land, said, "Hey, we're going to push Washington and Baltimore together." We know that we are two very separate regions. They don't know that, right? Or those of us who are in the nonprofit sector, they used to say nonprofit organization management, which is kind of funky. Now
Yes.
they don't have that anymore. They say non-profit management. Interesting, right? Like they only know what they know. They don't say associations, for example. They don't even know if they know that we exist. So I just say that because you're going to find different little nuances that LinkedIn will constantly throw out there, and they're doing their best, right, to just kind of figure out the landscape. But just whatever works for you, right, based upon what they have, just do it. If it makes sense. Other questions, Deborah?
Yeah, it's a follow-up on this, Shara. Like, what's your current thinking around the green open to work on your profile picture?
Sure.
Good to
Yeah.
have, not helpful. And it's so interesting. I would say 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I didn't do it, but I've actually, as I've been on LinkedIn now, I find it helpful to see my connections, who aren't, but I'm just kind of curious what the current
Yes,
thinking
so
is
there's
about that.
back in the day when it first came up, I was one of those, oh, you shouldn't do it. And now I've totally changed my tune. What I've heard and found is that it's very helpful for your network to know that you're looking, right? Because when they see it, they're like, oh, Deborah, what are you doing? What's going on? Hey, how can I help? Right? But they'll be thinking about you. Even for recruiters, frankly, it gives us a little bit of a clue that you actually might be more receptive to our outreach. So overall, I'd say it's much more commonplace, much more done. I would recommend that you do. And sorry.
Okay, yeah, well, that's the thing I realized. Like, I was just scrolling and I looked at someone and I saw it. And I don't know if I would have taken the time of this connection to like look at their profile and see where they are if I hadn't how that popped up.
That's exactly right. It lets you know, hey, they're in transition or they're looking, whatever. And actually, even to your question about open to recruiters. So the thing what Ann's talking about is that there is a little button there when you're putting on the open to sign that gives you the option, right? Do you want to just be open to recruiters or open to the whole world? Obviously, it's your personal choice. On balance, if you are in transition, like full out, not doing a confidential search, I'd recommend just be open to everybody. Now, if you're doing a confidential search, that's when you may want to consider doing just open to recruiters so that the whole world doesn't know, including your boss, that you're looking. That's my recommendation.
Just to tag on to what she said, so one of my friends who's been, looking, it's going on like, 8 months or whatever. She had at one point on and off, and she's had some, independent work that she's been doing. And so what she did was, she set herself like a limited time, like, you know what, it's been a while, my network's getting a little, so she did do open for work, but then she also had a post to go along with that to say, hey, I'm looking for this is what I'm interested. So
Right.
people, so
That's right.
people back then, 8 months ago, knew that she was looking, but maybe had forgotten at this point. So
That's
this
right.
was her way of to say, hey, I'm still looking. These are what my interests are, and then, so she made the most out of making that open announcement, open to work.
Let me riff off of that, and I do see your hands tying, Carolyn. Hi, Michael. So here's the thing. There has been a lot of more of a trend around what Anna's talking about, around letting your network know that you're looking. So both, there's what In just said, like, hey guys, I'm just looking, right? And for the purpose of letting folks know that, specifically, here's the type of things I'm looking for to keep in mind. But I would say, sort of in general, I am seeing more and more people post just their job search and just letting, like, just for the sake of doing that. And I will tell you that I just very, casually here and there when I'm looking on LinkedIn, I read the comments, and people will share their story, what happened. Hey, and I don't mean like even just our area, like people have been laid off in the tech sector and whatever, right? People will do these sort of long posts and lots of comments. Hey, hey, and they'll write, oh, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And they're compassionate. Right? People want to help folks who are in job transition. It's become sort of a, hey, we're all in the community together. This is my situation. Hey, can anybody help? Anybody have any ideas? So it's not just for the purpose anymore of, let me just let you know what I'm looking for in a professional way, but hey, I'm being a little vulnerable here. If you have ideas, please let me know. And I would say that that's been these days very, very well received by people's networks in general. So I would actually encourage you to, not every day, not every week, right? But like here and there, let folks know what you're looking for so that they can give you referrals. Yeah. Ty, and then Carolyn.
I have a comment that's unrelated. Sorry if I'm going off track here. I went to a Zoom call regarding employment with the county, and their comments. And I know that we talk mostly about private, but for the government sector, they said we don't care if your resume is 7 pages long. So
Right.
basically, I guess what I'm thinking is when you apply for a government job, you have to give them everything, every single step almost that you've done in the process, so they understand that you can do the job.
Yeah, so some of you may know, I'm not an expert in government resumes. Don't pretend to be that. Corliss Jackson, who anybody ever knows her, she does federal government resumes. Corliss at federaljobresults.com. Anyway, so she she'll tell you you basically have to share all the stuff that you're talking about. The way I put it is, tell them every time you tied your shoelaces. Like they just need to know every possible skill. And it sounds like that goes both for the federal government and local as well. Now, the proper way to do that, not my expertise, but I would recommend if any of you need like specialized advice. Oh, and also I think, does anybody still hang out with CNM, the Career Network Ministry, and go to their meetings here? Because I think Corliss had for a very long time done federal resume webinars. Do you know if she still does them? I would imagine so. Anybody know? She does, Carolyn?
I believe she does. I've seen some notices. I haven't
Okay.
gone to them, but I've
Good.
seen the
So
notices.
check her out there, Career Network Ministry on Meetup. And Ty, I'm not sure, I would do that, and then just pop it, ask her a question in the middle of the webinar and say, how long should they be, or any sort. And I think on her website, I think she has videos and whatnot. But yeah, you're generally speaking, you're correct. Just give them all the information they need. They need to know all the skills. Yeah. Other questions?
Well, if I may, this is kind of continuing on your riff. I did put up the banner because I was too maybe proud, embarrassed. I don't know what the right term is, but I didn't want to do a post to everybody saying my job was eliminated and I'm on the
Nothing
market
embarrassing,
again.
Carolyn. Nothing embarrassing about that. Happens all the time. Again, look at the tech sector. 10,000 people laid off of Facebook. Do you think all those people are embarrassed? No, it happens all the time.
So do you recommend me doing a post out to everybody?
Absolutely. Because people can't help you unless they know that they need to help you. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact,
Then
especially when the position's eliminated, it's the most normal thing in the world. Nothing. It's just budgetary, right?
Right.
It's not personal. No.
Okay.
I would just say, hey, position is eliminated, back on the market. Here's what I'm looking for. here's the kind of jobs I'm looking for, and also the sectors that I'm interested in, and specific, maybe even specific names of organizations, if anybody has any connections. I would post it on LinkedIn. I would also do an e-blast, because not everybody checks LinkedIn, right? So I would put together a list of all of your contacts, send out a mass e-blast. I'd even do specific. So for example, if there are people in your network that are really close to you, colleagues, right? Like that really want to help you. I would do individual notes, right, to them. You can have like maybe a standard paragraph that you use and then customize it, right, for that person. So, one blast is to people who are trusted colleagues. One is like a mass blast, and then one is a LinkedIn posting.
Well, this is part of my woe is me story. They, when they told me the afternoon they told me, I turned in my computer and I didn't get to save any of my contacts on that computer. And I didn't realize how just disastrous that was until I got home and started thinking about how I was going to reach out to people.
Oh, so all your personal contacts were on your work computer?
Not all my personal ones, but all the new contacts I made for the last 2 years were all on my work computer.
Did you also link in with those people?
Many of them, not all
Right.
of them.
Well, then at least you have that. And by the way, you can export your LinkedIn contacts and get an email address. Did you know that, Carolyn?
I did not know that.
Yes. So let me go ahead and do, you can't, hold on a second. Export.
It'll give you a spreadsheet.
Yep.
It'll pull down the spreadsheet.
Yep, exactly. So if you go here, I just, here, I'm going to pop this into chat. This is the how to do that. Okay.
Wow, thank you.
And if you just Google, export LinkedIn contacts, it's not hard at all. And it'll give you that lovely little spreadsheet with including your email address.
It's also really nice. I did this and then I took the Excel file and sorted it alphabetically. So it just really helped me be like, let me alphabetically, almost like a Rolodex, go through this and look at last names. Like, who do I want to start? Who are the people I want to talk to?
Yep.
I would do it about once a year or once every 6 months, because you never know when LinkedIn is going to take something away.
That's right. Absolutely. It's true. It's
in your
true.
best interest.
we rely on this, for most of us, a free service.
Right.
They provide this beautiful service. We really do rely on it, like email, like all these things, internet, right?
You just don't know when it's going to be obsolete and they're never going to give it to you.
Right. That's true.
Now, I have my phone number and my email address in my about section, so that you don't even have to look for it.
Karen, that is best practice. If you were in an active job search, and even if you're not, if a recruiter wants to reach out to you and you have your email and phone there, it saves them a step of actually having to connect with you.
They don't have to try to get a hold
they don't
of
have to
you.
try. Yeah. Yeah. If you're worried about cyber security, your stuff's out there anyway, right? People are going to spam you anyway. Might as well put it to good use and have it available for people who need to reach you. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Other questions? Or just topics. Maybe you want me to do a deep dive on something. Yep, Deborah.
So one thing I've been thinking about too, like I was in transition for a year during the pandemic. And as I've been thinking about my resume and LinkedIn, when I landed my last job, I had it like actively seeking job during the pandemic. And then I also put freelance work I did. So kind of what's the thinking on that now when you had that year? Should I still keep that as a job of like, this is what I did?
Yeah. Do you know on
and
LinkedIn now
freelance?
you can have this thing called career break? Do you know about that
Yeah.
feature? Does everybody know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So and actually since this is being recorded, so real fast. I don't know when they started this a year or two ago. If you've been in transition for a long time, for whatever reason, whether you're doing a job search, you had to care for a loved one, whatever it was, when you go to your experience section, you can hit the plus sign, and instead of you would do that normally just to add a job. But when you hit that plus sign, it now says, what is it? How do they call it? A break or something, career break, I think. Anyway, and there's a laundry list of options, family leave, bereavement, job search, something like that. There's like 15 of them, and you pick the one that's right for you. And then you can do a little note to explain what you were doing during that time. It actually is very helpful because it helps the employee to understand what your gap was. So I would keep it there for sure.
Okay.
Yep, yep. Deborah and Carolyn, are you familiar with the trend right now around how the remote work has affected the volume of candidates that how it's increased competition now for candidates? I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Deborah. All right, so I know Karen Tyne, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, but just to let you know, for the last, I don't know, year plus or so, now that many employers have gone permanently remote, for any of those jobs that are fully remote, right, not hybrid, your competition has now gone like 10x. And the reason is because now employers can get candidates from all over the country. So please know that, manage your expectations. If you do apply for anything online that's fully remote, everybody's going to be applying for that job. Okay, so your chances are pretty small. Conversely, though, if you're applying for a full-time or most likely a hybrid job, it's actually the opposite. Your chances actually go up. And the reason is that because there are so many candidates now who only want to do remote, employers are having an equally hard time getting people to work hybrid. And so if you go for a hybrid job, your competition goes like this. It's just very interesting sort of polarization in the market. So to whatever extent you can apply for a hybrid job, you'll have a better shot. Actually, Karen first and then Deborah. Unless you wanted to say something specifically about the remote thing.
Well, I was just going to
No,
add that having come out of recruiting, that
Um,
whenever we posted, we were always sure it was a job was remote before we were posted, because we knew once we posted remote, we would get
you're
so many
getting everybody.
applications.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a deluge. Yeah, for sure. Karen?
So what I wanted to say was that I saw a job on LinkedIn for Facebook. And as I was thinking about applying for it, there were 5,900 applications.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was
Yep.
closer to 6,000. I don't remember the exact amount,
Yep.
but I was pretty sure that my application would never even get looked at.
Right.
Without
And
knowing.
the poor recruiter on the back end. Right. It's got
I don't know why they didn't take it down, is my point. But anyway, I was just astounded that it could go up that high.
I honestly, with the first time that happened to me, when the first time I had like a fully remote search that I was doing, like within 24 hours, I'm like, stop. And I just pulled it out. Or after a week, like just done, because I didn't want to get 6,000, resumes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's brave new world. Carolyn?
And Shira, I was just going to say, I went back and looked at my LinkedIn just for a quick second. For my 11-year career break, I thought it was only 10 years, but LinkedIn told me it was 11, did full-time parenting and then career break so that they would know that I was a stay-at-home mom. And all of a sudden it's out there in the universe. And I've had lots of people reach out to me because I've gone back to work, and if I could help them figure out how to get back to work.
There you go. That's right. We have a trend toward vulnerability these days. I just have to say, for anybody who's feeling like they're a little squeamish about sort of letting people know what's going on, we're in a new world. And I say this to those of us because we're all old enough to remember the time when you didn't do that. It's changed. It just has, people like that whole authenticity thing. Who are you as a person? Don't be plastic and all this. And to your point, Carolyn, you say this and people are like, oh, wow, I resonate with that. Hey, can you help me? You've walked a mile in my shoes. We're just not in that plastic professional thing as much anymore. It's just kind of be real, more to a point, right? But more on the real side than on the professional side. Yeah.
And what I particularly like about it is it validated the time. I didn't have to say it under my breath, well, I was a stay-at-home mom,
Right.
It's out there.
It is. And it's actually in fact, if anything, it's being championed now. Like, oh, wow, we realize the plight of stay-at-home moms and how hard it is for them to get back in the workforce. Let's all rally around people, right? Thank you for doing that. Actually, it's I think it's encouraging for folks to say, yes, to your point, you did it and you got into the workforce again. Yeah. Karen?
So I linked into somebody recently through a company called agility.com, and they pretty much, it's like, what color's your parachute? What are you good at? Which thought. And her first title was mom, and then whatever she was doing for them. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, well,
I had
Again,
never seen that before.
yes, I haven't either, but again, we're in a generation where I think that's just going to become much more commonplace. Back in a day, we would say full-time homemaker or domestic engineer or something like that. It's a euphemism. Again, I just feel like people are just more transparent now, like embrace me for who I am and what I do.
So, and I would recommend the website agility.com. They let you take a test and it breaks out, the different influences on your life and maybe how to look at them on your resume.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, thanks for
right.
sharing that. All right, other questions, topics? Ty.
Sure. Do you have any comments on the overall job market? I know there's a lot of opportunities out there. Do you see an uptick, downtick, about the same? Any fields that seem to be better than others?
I can't really respond exactly that way because things are very fluid. Like you look at the tech sector and you have all the layoffs and stuff. I mean, there really was a glut for a while in certain sectors. When people ask me that question, I appreciate the question. And, at the same time, it's more about what's right for you, because you're not looking for every job. You're not looking for like folks like us, we kind of look at things in the aggregate, but you're looking for a job, right? Very specifically. So I would really, encourage you to be thinking about, when, honing your brand so that you can attract the right employer regardless, because there's always a something out there, right? No, nobody goes for horse and buggy jobs anymore because those jobs don't exist. So there's a point at which you have to say, look, the job's just not going to be there. But if you were in a legitimate profession, chances are somebody is looking for somebody like you. But it's a matter of thinking more specifically in your sector. What are the trends? So are there, in the certain industry, are there changes in the profession? Are there changes? So for example, Ty, in your world in customer service, there's been changes over the years. It's a customer service, customer experience, customer support, customer this, customer that, right? Different companies look at this profession in a certain way. And then how does that profession translate to different parts, sectors? So is it in the workforce development world, like you've been looking at? Is it in, membership experience, like, right? So I would be more encouraging you to be thinking about what's the nuances within your profession and within that sector, rather than kind of what the market's doing. Because remember, it's not only just the market. People have job openings all the time, even if that job has nothing to do with the trends in the market. They just have a need. And you never know when an employer is going to suddenly say, oh, we just lost somebody. What I will say is there's a lot of churn on the candidate side of things. So this happens after we come through a recession, like clockwork. All of a sudden the market opens up because people are like, oh, I don't have to stay in my job right now. I can breathe and I can look for a job. Okay. So we're finding a lot of turnover. It's nothing to do with layoffs necessarily, but just people feeling dissatisfied and saying, yep, better, greener pastures, I'm leaving. We're also seeing a lot of churn in younger generations. Okay. It's just, staying a year, 18 months, 2 years tops, churn. So there's a lot of backfilling that's going on all the time, having nothing to do with the economy necessarily, but more just, we're just seeing a lot of movement in general, if that helps. Other thoughts? How about best practices? Anything's been working for folks these days? A tip you'd like to share? Something that's worked well for you? Yeah, Carolyn.
I'll tell you one thing I did, and I don't know if it'll pay off for me or not, but I applied for a job with Google Cloud. They need a government affairs person to handle their public sector policy portfolio. And so I put a video on my resume.
On your resume or on your LinkedIn?
I put it on my resume.
Like a link to the video.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
And what I said was, this is not on my resume, but I wanted you to be sure and know. And then I told them the reason why I thought I would be such a good candidate for the public sector. And that was that I, during my time off, was a census enumerator, because I felt so strongly in the year 2000 that the count needed to be accurate so that my school could get its funding, so the hospitals could get their funding, so the roads, all that stuff. And you may remember all the controversy around the year 2000 census. I single-handedly was going to solve that problem by getting a good count. And I put that video together actually, and it's up on, YouTube just for the people that have the link to see it.
Wow.
And I'm just hoping that if they actually bother to click through it and see it, that maybe that might help
That
raise
is
me up
very
a notch.
novel, Carolyn. That's a wonderful idea. Did you put it on your resume? Did you put it on your cover letter or both?
I just put it on my resume. I did not put it in the cover letter.
I would do both, actually. Since you're doing it, you might as well. And you
So,
and there's
so
reference-
apply again with a new cover letter?
No. Well, no, you've already submitted, but I mean, just going forward, if you do that again,
Okay.
you may want to have a reference on your cover letter referencing the fact that it's also in your resume, right? As also noted in my resume, hyperlink, just in case, because you
Okay.
never know what people
What they read.
look at. Yeah, what they read, what they notice. That's very novel. Good for you.
Carolyn, how does it appear on your resume? Like click here to see a video, or what was the
I posted a picture of me doing the video with a link next to it, and I
Okay.
wrote on top of it Caroline's.
Oh, you literally like snipped the picture, the actual picture. Oh, so it's not just a hyperlink.
It is a hyperlink
Yeah,
next to it.
But it's not
visual.
just a hyperlink. It's actually.
Do you want me
your
to upload
picture.
my resume so you guys can see it?
Or could you share your screen? Because you let me
Oh
just see.
yeah, let me get
You
it up
sh-
and
You should have. Let me see if you have screen share ability.
So like a YouTube video
Yeah.
and like a little arrow thing, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is a new practice. I'd love to see it.
well, I didn't dream this up. Someone suggested it to me.
Great
But,
idea.
okay, let's see here. I want to share the right screen.
So while she's doing that, I'm in Kevin Conifee's interview group, and he had somebody who came in who showed that she made a sandwich board to be on Union Station to get a job. And I have to
What?
tell you, I had a picture of it, but my computer closed down. I don't think I have it. It looked very professional. I was pretty impressed.
What?
It was a sandwich board.
That's
Hire me.
amazing. That's
That was
amazing.
that was
said,
back
"Ask me about my
pre-pandemic that
resume."
she did that. Yeah. So
It
if you
is
want me to,
so novel, Carolyn.
Yeah,
I
this is
can
really neat.
click on the link maybe, and you could all see it and see what you think. I don't know
Yeah,
if it'll
when you
play on
do,
there
remember to you're
to
gonna
share that screen too.
well, no, at the bottom of your Zoom, as soon as you click it, it's gonna say optimize for audio, optimize for just at the very bottom, so that we can all hear it. Does that make sense? So hit
Mhm.
the link, but
It's not
hopefully it'll
popping
work.
up. Let's see.
Or maybe just put it in the chat. How long
Or
is the video?
if you copy and paste the link and drop it in a
Yeah.
browser, that would work.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
still
see a
can't-
link for.
I don't see your voice moving. I mean, you're not talking in the video, so has it been
Yeah, we still see your resume.
You know what?
Oh.
Can you pop the link in the chat?
Yeah, I don't think
I
any of the
can.
links work on your resume when I click on them. The email or any of the LinkedIn will take
Well,
you there.
you wouldn't type from this screen because it's
Okay.
not, yeah. But you'd have to have the actual document.
But I do like the image, the graphic element, and just the video, the fact that you added that in. I bet people, it does arouse curiosity, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and play the video from my end. So hopefully that works.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Sorry, I didn't know how to optimize it for whatever.
Can you hear this?
We don't see your.
No? Hold on one sec.
All
Um,
right. You're sharing your screen.
okay, so you didn't hear that?
Okay, now play it. We see the
Okay.
YouTube.
Can you hear this?
No.
Can you hear it? Yes, no, no?
No.
I can hear
No.
something, but I can't hear
I
it.
can't
very
hear it.
loudly.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Okay. All right, well, in any event, it's in
Yeah.
it's in the chat, so you guys can look at it.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, good.
Well,
Thanks for that.
I
Novel
really want
idea.
that job, and I didn't know how else to, try to get myself up
great.
there. But someone who connected with me on LinkedIn and said, can we do a little video chat? Because she wanted to know more about SHRM. And I told her the woe is me, I'm not at SHRM anymore, but I gave her all my suggestions. And she said, well, Caroline, you're so, just easy to talk to. Why don't you give them a video of you being you? And I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Carol, I just love this idea. I never would have thought of doing that. It's so different. It could be a best practice in general. I mean, why not, right? Why should resumes have to be the same way we've always done them? And same thing
Yeah.
with cover letters. I think that's just a very cool thing. How long was the video?
About a minute.
But yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, you're a minute and 15. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should all consider that now, right? As just something a
Yeah.
little different. Look, for that matter, you can do a little video that you put on LinkedIn as well in your featured section. And it
Hey
could just be
world, I applied for this job that I really want, and here's my rationale for why I want it.
right. Yeah, I don't mean that I don't mean putting that on your LinkedIn. Okay. Like on your LinkedIn, like maybe something a little more generic about what you're looking for or something about yourself. So people can get a sense of your personality, because on LinkedIn, we can't do that. We can just see your picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we should all start considering having a little video clip describing, right, who you are, and but if you do it right, here's the thing though, I'm going to give you a little tip. If you do it, you need to try to make sure that the video reflects your personality. Let me tell you why I'm sharing that. So this is from my own recruiting desk. Okay. I tried something novel with a CEO search that I'm actually finishing up right now. Here's what I decided to do. So in the process of the vetting of the candidates, right, we had a search committee. Okay. So of course I did my job, like, Deborah knows this process, right? We recruit the candidates, we interview the candidates, blah, blah, blah. And then we have to present the candidates to the search committee. So in addition to the resume and cover letter, right, I had them do a questionnaire, and I've done that before. And I typically would do a questionnaire that had, a bunch of questions about, why they're specifically qualified for this search and whatever. I decided to do something a little different this time. I took some of those questions and I got back on a call with the candidate, and they knew I was going to do this, and they had the questions in advance. I recorded an interview with them. I recorded the answers to their questions of the questionnaire. Okay. So rather than having them do it themselves and just speak to crickets, they got on call with me, just me and them. And they knew what I was about to do. I hit record. I said, hi, so-and-so, right? Welcome, blah, blah, blah. Question number 1, right? What was fascinating for every single candidate, all of a sudden they got into this very sort of stiff, formal kind of a mode, right? That had nothing to do necessarily with their actual personality. It was actually shocking. It was just so interesting. Like once they hit the record button, it's like all of a sudden they were on CNN. Okay. And it's nothing wrong with the CNN profile. It's just that it really wasn't them. And so when I sent it to the search committee, I actually had to put a caveat in there, like, hey guys, when you watch this stuff, it's actually different than how they really show up. Okay. My point though, is that when you're doing a video, as much as possible, try to be in a relaxed mode. Kind of like what we are right here, right? We all know this call is being recorded, but we're not acting in a formal way. We're just sort of chatting. Be the way that you would be on an interview. Be the way that you would be in the job. Be your natural warm self. Smile, little body movement. Don't think I am on a stiff recording right now, because that's psychologically, I think, what most of us end up doing. Practice it just so that you can be sort of warm and relational, because the whole point of it, right, is for them to get to know you. And if you're being stiff, that defeats the purpose, right? So I just be pretty natural. But thank you, Carolyn. That's great. Great idea.
Well, we'll see if it works. I'll let you know. But I had to do a YouTube, video tutorial on how to upload a video, to my computer, get a link and all that stuff. So I feel very accomplished.
Yeah. That's even a great star story, Caroline, to put in your pocket when you're interviewing, or for example story about how you've embraced technology.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All these new things we can do. Cool. Ty?
Carolyn, I'd just like to congratulate you on doing that, because one of the things, like they say about like me, is, oh, you're not up on technology. This is a perfect example that you show this, and like Deborah said, your star story. So it's like, this is something that I would say like a millennial would do, and it's like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
It speaks a lot.
It does. It's great.
Well, being the parent of 17-year-old twins helps. They
There you
share
go.
a lot of technology stuff with me.
That's great. And Deborah, have you seen any novel ways the candidates have shown up on your desk in the recruiting room?
Nothing's popping up.
Yeah, people typically go traditional, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people in the creative arts, like graphic designers and stuff, they get a little funky,
Oh
right?
yeah, those are
Yeah.
the resumes I don't like formatting because they just come in and I'm like,
What
this
do I
is
do with those?
beautiful, but I need to remove your contact
Everything.
information and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other questions as we wrap up? Why don't we do a quick round robin since we haven't done that in a minute. We have Carolyn and Deborah back here. So we'll just do a little networking. So just we'll go around the room. I'll let you know who's coming up on my Zoom screen. Your name, what you do, what you're looking for, whether you're the kind of title you're looking for or profession. If you have a sectoral focus, let us know. You may not. And if there's a specific kind of an organization by name or whatever that you'd like us to let us know, that we can help you get you connected with. So my order is Deborah, Ty, In, Carolyn, Karen.
Yeah, so really glad to be here today. I am giving myself a deadline of next Friday to say this is where I want to head next. I most recently was working in a nonprofit executive search firm. I was the right hand. I kept the trains on track. I was the project manager, kept things going. So there's skills in that area I'm looking at and saying, do I want to stay in search? Because recruiting is fun, supporting recruiters. So do I want to stay in that area in the nonprofit space? Or is there maybe a way I want to maybe consider branching out a little bit, maybe into some HR talent development? So I'm at this point really narrowing my focus and figuring out what my next adventure I want it to be. And I'm in the Washington, D.C. I don't know where you guys are, but I'm in the Washington, D.C.
I think we all
Baltimore
are.
metropolitan
Yeah,
area.
right. I think we all are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Ty.
I'm Ty Smith. I'm glad to be here today. Every time I come on, I get some type of little nugget I can take along with me. And thank you for all your great ideas. As you know, I'm looking for customer service. Just want to help people. Looking at workforce development or just a regular customer service job. Looked at associations. Is why I've been looking in there for about a year and a half. Decided that that's probably not where I want to go. Like to maybe look at something like in financial, I guess, or I've spent 14 years in insurance, so that's a possibility too.
Thanks, Ty. In.
Hi, good morning. My name is In Barber, and I am in the nonprofit association space. My specialty, or my area that I'd like to stay in is business development, non-dues revenue generation. And so in that light, I'd like to focus on corporate partnerships, strategic alliances. That's where I really like working with industry and raising money for nonprofits and associations in the DC area.
Carolyn?
Well, I am happy to be back with this group just because it puts a fire in my belly. So thank you. And I am a government relations professional, a lobbyist, and proud to be one. I want to make the world a better place, and how I'd like to do it is by representing a company or a trade association before Congress for the issues that they need advocated or defeated. And that's what I was doing in my last job, and that's what I was doing 11 years before my career break, and I want to keep doing it. And I have a 3-month severance from this job that was eliminated. So I got to find a job in a hurry because I've got those kids to put through college soon.
Is there a certain sector that you're specializing in, Carolyn? Or issue areas?
I'm a little bit more liberal artsy than that. I could go and advocate for almost anybody, I think. But to help narrow my focus, I used to represent the high-tech industry exclusively, and I'm kind of focused in that sector right now. And that's why I was so excited to see the Google Cloud opening.
Yeah, so the reason why I ask is, when you're doing a job search, there's what you're looking for, and then there's how they're going to find you attractive. So this sounds like from your side of it, you're cross-sectoral, kind of, you can do just about anything. From their perspective, they might find you more attractive based upon the skills and the issue areas that you've already developed, right? So to your point, so you have the tech background, right? A tech company might find you attractive. Did you say that you were mostly recently with SHRM?
Mhm.
Right. And so that's the HR world, which obviously has a business side of things, right? So to the extent that since you are open, you may actually want to focus because it doesn't really matter to you, but it matters to them.
Right.
And, that's sectoral to sectoral thing. So both in terms of the industry, but also in your case, because you are in GR, specific issues you may want to be highlighting in your resume to show the issue expertise. People really like that. Or certain agencies that you've engaged with. I'm not sure if you're more on the legislative or regulatory side, but, committees, right? That kind of thing, to really highlight that at the top of your resume so that they know, she gets us. Hey, she's got a book of business. She's got the Rolodex, right? She understands, right, what we do. That from a branding perspective, the more niche-y you can kind of make yourself to that company, the more they're going to feel like you have less of a learning curve.
Well, my sweet spot is tax legislation.
Okay, well, there you go.
So
Yeah, make sure that that's
I've got-
highlighted.
yeah, and I do feature that on my resume and on
good.
LinkedIn.
Great, excellent. Good deal. All right, Karen?
Hi, so I have a background in technology and I'm currently searching out project management jobs. I'm looking primarily for a job close to home. I live in Waldorf and I am tired of the 2-hour Chantilly commutes.
Wow.
I specifically am targeting companies close to where I live, so.
Or remote, both?
Or remote.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with remote. I've always worked remote in some way. But when I see 6,000 applications for a job that's advertised as
I
remote,
know.
I'm like, you all have lost it.
I know. That's why
A lot of
networking.
them say they're remote, but they expect you to come in the office once a week. Well, how do you do that?
That's
if the
actually
job's in
hybrid.
Arizona?
Then that's not actually remote. That's considered hybrid. Yeah.
I understand, but they're advertising
Advertising it as remote. Yeah, that's interesting.
right. So, but that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a project management position.
Gotcha.
Although I would do some training. I enjoyed training when I was doing it for the Board of Elections.
Karen, have you networked with the other Karen, Karen McCann, who's used to be on
I
this
have
call?
not in a long time.
Okay, so do you have her info?
I don't think I do.
Okay, so let me pop that here for you because in fact she just well, she had a job and her contract was over and she just landed a new one, and she's a networker's networker. And I know that she would be very happy to network with you because she's just that kind of person. So let me give you her information here. You can reach out to her.
Okay.
All right. Well, wonderful. So for those of you who, and Deborah and Carolyn, I don't know if you know that I do this now, but we'll be wrapping up this call, and then I offer a short prayer call for those who'd like to stay on. So I'll go ahead and wrap up now and wish everybody a blessed day. And if you'd like to stay on, you are certainly welcome to do that. Okay, here we go.